Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers disturbing the peace, medical care for arrestees, and excessive force, and is brought to us by Mass Lives channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Before we dive into the interaction, I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of this episode, Exter. Being organized can have a dramatically beneficial effect on your life, but getting organized is a challenge that we all face. It helps to start with something small, like organizing the things you carry around with you every day. And that's where today's sponsor comes in. Exter makes sustainable wallets, bags, and accessories that help you get more out of your day. Exter makes a lot of great products, but my personal favorite is the aluminum card holder. Not only does it hold 12 cards and cash, which you can easily access with the press of a button, but it's also made of space-grade 6061 T6 aluminum and is completely RFID proof, meaning your valuables are secure no matter the environment. The card holder also features an expandable backplate for additional card storage and offers 14 different colors and patterns to fit any style. Exter also makes the Tracker card, which is the perfect add-on for your card holder. The Tracker card is a small card that you can fit into any wallet or card holder that allows it to be tracked from anywhere in the world. Right now, you can save up to 25% off your Exter order when you click on the link in the description and use code AUDIT at checkout. This code won't be active forever, so click on the link now before it's too late. Thanks again to Exter for sponsoring today's episode. On August 25th, 2019, several officers from the City of Worcester Police Department in Massachusetts were called to Cornerstone Bible Baptist Church to speak with Rachel Rizzuti, the daughter of the church's Reverend Joseph Rizzuti Sr., who allegedly failed to return her 11-year-old child following a custodial visit. According to the Rizzutis, when Ms. Rizzuti asked the officers if they had any paperwork or if she was being detained, Officer Nunez responded in the negative, so Ms. Rizzuti attempted to leave. Additional officers arrived, including Officer Capabianca, and the interaction that followed was captured by body camera footage.
Who are you? Who are you? Why don't you go inside? You have nothing about it.
Oh, that's my daughter. So okay. Yeah, I do have a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you
maybe
know,
you don't have to.
This has nothing to do with you.
Tyron, don't tell me. Rachel. Tyron.
You done yelling? You done yelling?
Are you done yelling? Acting like a big shot?
We're all set here. You can go inside.
No, you go on.
You're not going to tell me what to do. You can go inside. You're about to be arrested for disturbing the peace.
Supervisor here, Tyrant. You keep. Let's get him. Look at him. Look at this guy. Look
Hey,
at him.
hey!
What are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Oh, you're interfering! Don't listen! What are you doing?
After Reverend Rizzuti calls the officers quote-unquote tyrants, an officer threatens to charge him with quote-unquote disturbing the peace. And when Reverend Rizzuti does not comply with his order to go back inside, the officer chases him into the church, throws him to the ground, and tases him. Now, we will discuss the use of force later in the episode, but first, it is important to explore whether the officers had any grounds to arrest or detain Reverend Rizzuti. The Massachusetts so-called disturbing the peace statute, which is found in section 53 of chapter 272 of the Massachusetts general laws, simply states that, quote, disorderly persons and disturbers of the peace shall, for a first offense, be punished by a fine of not more than $150. As the Massachusetts jury instructions explain, a conviction requires an individual to engage in conduct that most people would find to be unreasonably disruptive, such as making loud and disturbing noise, tumultuous or offensive conduct, hurling objects in a populated area, or threatening, quarreling, fighting, or challenging others to fight. The prohibited conduct also includes, quote, uttering personal insults that amount to fighting words, that is, are so offensive that they are inherently likely to provoke an immediate violent reaction. According to the jury instructions, in order to sustain a conviction for disturbing the peace, the government must not only prove that an individual engaged in prohibited conduct, but that the actions were intentional, not done by accident or mistake, and the individual's conduct actually annoyed or disturbed at least one person. However, due to the protections given to speech by the First Amendment, the instructions also clarify that the disturbing the peace statute does not apply to offensive and abusive language unless it constitutes, now quoting, profane, libelous, and insulting or fighting words which by their very utterance tend to incite an immediate breach of the peace. Additionally, as we have discussed before here on ATA, the 1987 Supreme Court case of City of Houston versus Hill established that the First Amendment protects a significant amount of verbal criticism and challenge directed at police officers, unless it is, now quoting, likely to produce a clear and present danger of a serious substantive evil that rises far above public inconvenience, annoyance, or unrest. In reaching this conclusion, the court quoted Justice Powell's concurring opinion in the 1974 case of Lewis versus City of New Orleans, which suggested that even the so-called fighting words exception to the First Amendment might require a narrower application in cases involving a police officer because, now quoting, a properly trained officer may reasonably be expected to exercise a higher degree of restraint than the average citizen, and thus be less likely to respond belligerently to fighting words. Therefore, it is highly unlikely that a court would conclude that Reverend Rizzuto's statements, as captured on the body camera footage, exceeded First Amendment protections, although it is possible that he engaged in additional conduct or speech before the footage began that did constitute disturbing the peace.
You guys need to get back up. Get out of space and back up.
Just record it. That's
I
all.
am.
Oh, you tased me. Get the state cops here. Oh, you just punched someone. I'm gonna sit.
Sit down.
Are you on?
I'm okay. Stop, Papa. We need an
We're in the church at 7 What's wrong with you people?
These guys are tyrants.
Stay on the ground now.
Let go of me. What's wrong with you?
He's a tyrant.
I'm resisting you.
For him, you idiot. You're on the ground.
Stay on the ground.
Get on the
You're
ground.
psycho.
Stop moving.
You're hurting me.
Listen,
buddy.
See what he did?
Let go of me. I'm gonna sue the out of you, so you know.
This guy's been hitting me, kicking me.
Yeah, I'm gonna sue the crap out of him.
You
You're
like
hurting
that,
me, man. I
What's
just
his name?
asked you to get off my wrist, man.
You
Get
stand
this
right
guy's
there.
name right here, Capa Bianca. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, get this stuff. All because they're trying to bully one of our church members and steal their child.
We'll just sue him, that's all.
I don't know what I did to get
You didn't do
tased.
nothing. They standing there punching
Yeah,
me in
he
the
came
face.
at me because he didn't
This
like
Spanish
it.
cop right here punched
Huh?
me right in the face.
I know that. Don't be punching us.
You
You
shut
know what?
your
You
mouth.
need to back away
No,
from
Sergey,
us. We're not animals. What am I arrested for?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, what did I get arrested for?
Get the supervisor here now.
I can't even believe what these guys just did in this church house.
Yeah.
We need to get him up and then him. Which one do you want to get up first? They can get both. We have enough guys now.
Are you kidding me?
How? We've got enough guys now.
Make sure my wife gets checked out because she's pregnant and this cop tackled her.
Joseph Rizzuti Jr., the son of Reverend Rizzuti and a pastor at the church, asks one of the officers to get his wife, Carissa Rizzuti, quote-unquote, checked out because she's pregnant and an officer tackled her. A lawsuit the Rizzutis filed after this encounter claims that an EMT who responded to the church location refused to provide medical care to Ms. Rizzuti, allegedly telling her that he was there to treat officers and that he would not examine her because she hit an officer. The complaint also alleges that Ms. Rizzuti was never given medical treatment and that after her arrest, she lay on the cell floor for hours without receiving any medical attention. In the 1983 case of Revere versus Massachusetts General Hospital, the Supreme Court held that the 14th Amendment requires the government to, quote, provide medical care to persons who have been injured while being apprehended by the police. The court also concluded that although the 8th Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishments applied only to convicted prisoners and not to pretrial detainees, the due process rights of an individual in this situation, now quoting, are at least as great as the 8th Amendment protections available to a convicted prisoner. As the First Circuit Court of Appeals, which has jurisdiction over Massachusetts, explained in the 2016 case of Miranda Rivera versus Toledo Davila, quote, government officials violate the 8th Amendment if they display deliberate indifference to a prisoner's serious medical needs. A serious medical need is one that has been diagnosed by a physician as mandating treatment, or one that is so obvious that even a layperson would easily recognize the necessity for a doctor's attention. Similarly, as the First Circuit noted in the 2001 case of Kosha versus Town of Pembroke, so-called deliberate indifference may also consist of, now quoting, showing a conscious failure to provide medical services where they would be reasonably appropriate. Here, the officers were informed multiple times that Ms. Rizzuti was pregnant and that she was only at the 3-month mark, which would arguably be an obvious risk to a layperson and likely constitute a situation where medical services would be reasonably appropriate. Therefore, if the allegations in the lawsuit complaint are true, Ms. Rizzuti would have a legitimate argument that the state failed to provide her with medical care as required by the 14th Amendment.
This guy tased me, the other guy kicked me. 55 years old, beaten up by the Worcester police. This guy right here.
You have an ID on you?
No, I don't. You got one on you?
I drive stun. He got drive stun in the back.
Does he have to go or no?
No, just want to check him out.
You
don't
I'll wait for him to walk for a minute.
Yeah.
My name's Joe, Reverend Joe Rizzuti. I don't consent to you to go in my pocket. You don't care what I said.
You're under arrest. We're going to search
You
you.
get away from me.
Okay?
You get away from me.
No,
This
you're
guy
under
was
arrest.
assaulted.
All right.
I'm your arrest.
Yeah.
Oh, am I? You get away from me. You've already assaulted me. Assaulted me, tased me, laying in the back of my church, this guy. Imagine that. All because he was asked a simple question. Tased me, you knocked me to the ground, and this guy's pulling my pants down.
Reverend Rizzuti criticizes the officers for their use of force against him. The body camera footage shows that the officers chased Reverend Rizzuti through the church before throwing him to the ground and tasing him. The complaint filed by the Rizzutis also alleges that the officers struck Reverend and Pastor Rizzuti with closed fists, and that Carissa Rizzuti was thrown to the floor, where officers stepped on her stomach and back, although the body camera footage does not depict all of these actions. According to the Worcester Police Department's use of force policy, quote, "It is the policy of the Worcester Police Department that an officer's force response be objectively reasonable and account for the officer's perception of the risk/threat presented by a subject, as well as the officer's perception of the subject's actions." The policy also states that, now quoting again, "Officers shall not use physical force upon another unless de-escalation tactics have been attempted and failed or are not feasible based on the totality of the circumstances," and, drawing on principles established in the 1989 case of Graham versus Connor, that an officer may use that level of non-deadly force that is objectively reasonable to effect an arrest, protect the officer or another from physical harm, restrain or subdue a resistant subject, and or bring an unlawful situation safely and effectively under control. Now, in this situation, the officers did not state that the Rizzutis were under arrest, although they did appear to be attempting to arrest at least Reverend Rizzuti when the use of force began. And while Reverend Rizzuti was verbally challenging the officers, there was no reason to believe that the Rizzutis posed a threat of physical harm to the officers or other individuals in the area, at least at the time the physical force was initiated. Likewise, the body camera footage does not show the Rizzutis resisting any lawful orders, and, assuming that the allegations in the complaint are true, the Rizzutis were not creating an unlawful situation, because Officer Nunez had already informed Rachel Rizzuti that he did not have any paperwork and she was not under arrest. Therefore, a court could find that the amount of force the officers used was both a violation of Worcester PD policy and constitutionally excessive, although it is difficult to give a conclusive opinion given the chaotic and incomplete nature of the body camera footage. Furthermore, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court held in the 1983 case of Commonwealth versus Modera that, although individuals do not have the general right to resist unlawful arrest under state law, quote, "Where the officer uses excessive or unnecessary force to subdue the arrestee, regardless of whether the arrest is lawful or unlawful, the arrestee may defend himself by employing such force as reasonably appears to be necessary." Now, in that situation, the court concluded that an arrestee may defend himself by employing the degree of force that reasonably appears to be necessary under the circumstances. As such, the Rizzutis would be able to argue that they were acting in self-defense against excessive force from the officers if they were to be charged with resisting.
No one's
They're gonna
checked
check
me
him
out.
out. They're waiting for him to calm down.
Out.
They're waiting for him to calm down.
I like my money clip and my money back. We'll take care of that. Look
Keep
at
me
these
at
guys. You guys getting this on video? Taking all my stuff out of my pockets, my money, my
bro.
money clip, everything.
Your whole behavior, all on video. All your behavior.
That's how that works.
Don't worry about it. Okay? So shut your mouth.
Oh, really? Shut my mouth.
Did they prevent you from getting the kid?
I wasn't here for like I said. It was a lot. We were trying to get to there, and he kept interfering, and he wouldn't calm down. He kept causing a scene, and then he went here.
Where did you get, where you got tased?
I have no idea. He got tased right in the middle back here.
Can I just look at it? Is that all right?
Relax. I gotta check you out. Right here. All right, we're good. All right, you're all set to go to the wagon. Let's go. That's for this guy here. Okay. Let me find out. I don't know what the noise got going on, but thank you.
They did all this in front of him.
I'm good here. They just need a card for the other guy. All right, guys, we're good.
Mom,
Thank you.
they're gonna tell you you're going to the police station. You gotta bail us out. You got Joey's credit card. I'm getting arrested you.
Reverend Rizzuti was charged with assault and battery on a police officer, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, and interference with a police investigation. And Pastor Rizzuti was charged with interference with a police investigation and resisting arrest. The resisting arrest charges against both men were dismissed prior to trial, and a judge acquitted them of all other charges after a bench trial. Carissa Rizzuti was charged with interference with a police investigation, which was also dismissed, and Rachel Rizzuti was charged with several offenses, including a kidnapping charge. The kidnapping charge was later dismissed, and the other charges against her were decriminalized. On August 23, 2022, the Rizzutis filed a federal lawsuit against officers Nunez and Capobianca, along with several other officers and Worcester government officials, for unreasonable force, assault and battery, conspiracy, malicious prosecution, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and other federal claims. The complaint alleges that, in addition to the physical injuries sustained during the altercation, Pastor Rizzuti's son, along with the other family members, were traumatized by this event. The complaint also includes allegations of a pattern of misconduct by the Worcester Police Department. As of the date of writing this episode, the lawsuit is still pending. On November 15, 2022, the DOJ announced it would be launching a civil investigation into the Worcester Police Department to assess whether the department engages in a pattern or practice of excessive force or engages in discriminatory policing based on race or sex. According to a press release issued by the DOJ, the investigation will include a comprehensive review of policies, procedures, trainings, investigatory files, and data, as well as an examination of the department's systems of accountability, including its systems to address misconduct complaints and discipline, and an evaluation of how WPD officers interact with the public, collect evidence, and complete investigations. Overall, the Worcester officers get an F for utterly failing to de-escalate a contentious situation, using excessive and unnecessary force against the Rizzutis, and seemingly pursuing inflated criminal charges against the family and against Reverend Rizzuti in particular. Now, although I cannot speak to the validity of all of the allegations in the complaint for the Rizzutis' lawsuit, it is clear even from the limited portions of the interaction that was captured on body camera that the officers used more force than was necessary to resolve a non-criminal situation. And as the Rizzutis were acquitted of all criminal charges, and the DOJ is currently investigating the Worcester Police Department for repeated instances of excessive force, I am inclined to believe that at least a good portion of the Rizzutis' claims are accurate. I truly hope that the DOJ investigation yields accurate and actionable results that can be transformed into meaningful change for this police department, including appropriate disciplinary action against transgressing officers, so that we do not see these same officers involved in another encounter like this one in the future. As for the Rizzutis, I cannot assign an accurate grade based on the body camera footage, as it did not capture the family's interactions with the officers when they first arrived on the scene, nor did it clearly record most of Pastor Rizzuti's and Ms. Rizzuti's actions. What I can say for certain is that the Rizzutis appeared to remain within their First Amendment rights in their criticism of the officers' conduct, and while Reverend Rizzuti would likely have been in a better position had he not run through the church in an attempt to escape the officers, I understand why he acted out of fear towards the officers' aggressiveness. I commend the Rizzutis for successfully fighting the criminal charges against them, being willing to speak out publicly against the way the Worcester Police Department treated them, and taking appropriate legal action to pursue accountability for any violations of their civil rights that may have occurred. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic that you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out my second channel for even more police interaction content.